But Tim, why don't you criticize Republicans more often? Tim, you only talk about the left. Oh man. Okay, yes. I think that's to a degree true for one simple reason, at least how I see it, is you have a contingent of far left wackos who have essentially infiltrated mainstream politics, and the far right wackos are pretty much nowhere to be found. Sure, they exist. They're not in politics. There may be a few people who have associations and ties and have been accused of it, and they should be criticized rightly so. Steve King has said some pretty dumb things, and I don't think anyone's going to praise him. I think he's got universal condemnation for the most part. I think people in his state still like him. I don't know. But these people are few and far between. And they don't like it when I say this. I'm talking about like the fringe, ultra-traditionalist, like white nationalist types. They criticize me on Twitter. They make videos about me. They don't like it when I mention that, look, whatever, guys, there's not that many of you, okay? I'm not concerned. What I am concerned with is Politico Magazine scared, confused, questioning how a straight white man can run for president. Let me clarify. How does a straight white male Democrat run for president? Very carefully. This question should not have to be asked. We should judge people based on the content of their character, not the color of their skin. This is one of the reasons why I do not like what's happening to mainstream American left. I want sensible center-left to left-wing policy. I like the idea of social programs. I don't like intervention, foreign intervention. There's a lot of people on the left I do agree with. Unfortunately, the wingnut dogmatic racialists are slowly encroaching and taking over. I don't want to have anything to do with them. So you know what? Fair enough. I'm politically homeless. I look over at conservatives and I say, yeah, I get it. They're doing what they've always done. They're pro-life. There's a lot of religious folk. They're very much in line with their strongman, Donald Trump. Don't care. They always do that. Am I going to sit here for this and give the same criticism for 20 years over what they do? No. I'm going to rally people on the left and say, how can we overcome? How can we implement policies that we like? And something really insane happens. Right now, when I look at Republicans, yes, it is true. And people on the left don't want to admit this because they're losing their minds. Republicans have become a bit more progressive and moderate relative to the past 10 years. Remember when Republicans were straight up like no gay marriage, and then Trump unfurls an LGBT flag and gets the RNC to clap and cheer for them? It's like, okay, well, they've moved forward in terms of social progress, and they've really attracted the socially progressive, fiscally conservative types. What happens? Well, now the Democrats have identitarians and the reactionary left. So it's hold on. A center-left moderate individual who would traditionally align with like people like Bernie Sanders are now questioning. Look, and I'll say this too. Bernie Sanders today is different from where he was in 2015. He made a video about how open borders was bad and it was a Koch brothers policy. And then all of a sudden he started embracing identitarianism and identity politics. Not fun. Not a fan. Sure. And Bernie Sanders has been a champion of civil rights for a long time. So look, Bernie Sanders is in the middle of the left quadrant. He says he's a socialist. He's not. He's a social democrat, which means he believes in a capitalist system with a strong welfare system, with a strong welfare system. And that's why he praises Scandinavia. Okay. I think he's, in terms of economic policy, he leans a little too far left for me, but I like the idea of a populist who's going to fight for the working class and believes in social programs. So I lean more in his direction. But what do we have now? Well, for one, Ocasio-Cortez is insane. What is she even talking about? She makes gaffe after gaffe after gaffe. The Washington Post and PolitiFact have called her out for it. And what happens? The far left says, if you criticize her, you're a conservative, you're alt-right. Oh, okay. Then you get these people associated with other far left groups claiming that because I've criticized Ocasio-Cortez, that means I must support Trump. And when I flat out say like, no, I've criticized almost every foreign intervention action Trump's taken. I've called him the worst representation of American culture. I don't know how you can I get it. The orange mad bad people call him Hitler. That's ridiculous. But I've literally called him the worst example of American culture. What do you want me to say? Oh, I don't yell orange man bad enough. No, I don't like Trump. Okay. I've criticized the idea of the wall, but in a more reasonable way. Perhaps it's too much money for too little reward. But the Democrats haven't offered up anything other than walls don't make sense or they're immoral, and that's not an argument. So what do you want me to do as a reasonable centrist? When I look at articles like this, which I should be reading, but I'm ranting, how does a straight white male Democrat run for president? Very carefully. No, I don't care. Tell me what your policy plans are, and I'll consider it. I don't care if you're Kamala Harris or Joe Biden. I don't care if you're in a wheelchair and you're from the moon. If you have good ideas, I'm willing to hear them. Unfortunately, now, the color of someone's skin matters more to the left than any other political party in this country, except maybe for, like, literally the Nazi Party, which was banned from Twitter. So let's read what they have to say. Of 9 candidates officially running in the Democratic presidential primary, only one is a heterosexual white man. And that guy, former Rep. John Delaney, generally polls somewhere between 0 and 1%. But of the 17 Democrats reportedly still pondering a presidential bid, all but one is a straight white man. It's hard to chalk that up to coincidence. Clearly, the women and minority candidates sense that the water is warm for them, and the straight white men appear to be worried that this is just not their year. It's called racialism and identitarianism affecting your party, infecting your party. CNN's demographic number cruncher Ron Brownstein noted recently that the percentage of the Democratic primary electorate who are women, non-white voters, and the most liberal component of the party, college-educated white voters, are all on the rise. The 2016 Democratic primary electorate was 58% women, 38% non-white voters, and 37% college-educated white voters. All numbers that could be bigger in 2020 and strongly suggest a hospitable environment for candidates who embody a diverse America. Does this mean that Democratic Party voters are so obsessed with identity politics that they are shutting straight white men out of their party? No. Who have been the top 2 candidates in nearly every primary poll? Not just 2 straight white males, but geriatric ones. Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders are the oldest straight white men in the lot. This needs to be stressed. The difference between what they think is happening and what people actually want. And this is why I sit here ranting and raving and waving my arms in the air about how Ocasio-Cortez has lost the plot, or she never had it in the first place. And you have an identitarian left with fringe ideas infecting the party. These people who are running for president spend too much time on Twitter believing that fringe identitarian regressive leftists are the majority of their party. They're not. When they poll likely Democrats, what do they say? I like Joe Biden. Joe Biden, the old white guy. And then what happens? You get all of these people believing that they have to actually criticize the idea of white men to win when the majority of the party, according to Gallup and Pew, want more moderate policy. You know, my friends, a lot of them, they're politically homeless. We're just sitting here confused because they've insisted on approaching politics from this weird position of being regressive identitarians who think the color of their skin is more important. You actually have like Don Lemon on TV saying that he wants to be seen for his color. Speaking in the face of Martin Luther King Jr., who said that one day we can be judged based on the content of our character, not the color of our skin. But you have these racialists, identitarians, who want to be their color. I never wanted to be that because I come from a particular family heritage, and I have witnessed the extreme, weird regressive leftists who think all white man bad. And then I've experienced the actual white supremacists who say mixed race bad. And I'm like, you know what? I think both of you are nuts. But I'll say it now. I've said it before. The fringe white supremacist wackos are few and far between and listen, the narrative that white men in Congress are all white supremacists is psychotic. It's not true. They have to get votes from minorities and they avoid certain things, right? Even if many of these people did have racist views, and I'm sure many of them do, they know what they have to do to win the popular vote. And that means over time, they can't survive. And I'm glad to see today, most of them, almost all, they're gone. These people we are as a society getting rid of race-based policy, okay? We're enacting restrictions on certain institutions to protect civil rights of individuals. These are good things, okay? Supreme Court ruled you can, in 1967, I think I've mentioned before that mixed race people can live together and come together, and good things are happening. When I look to government, what do I see? Well, the Republicans are, becoming a little bit more moderate in a lot of ways. Not completely. There's still many evangelicals and Christians in the party, but you do have more acceptance of LGBT rights. Good things, good moves. And then I look to the left and they're like pushing out fringe ideologies. They're literally advocating for discriminating against Asian people, a smaller minority than Latinos and black people in this country. Why? Too damn successful. You look over at Harvard and they're like, well, let's discriminate against this minority. Whoa. Since when did we as a society decide that was the right thing to do? You people are crazy. And they're getting into positions of power and they're pushing ridiculous identitarian policy that I don't like. So here's the important point in this whole article, which I barely read any of. Plain and simple, If Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders, two old white men, are leading the pack, then your fringe ideology about the wokeness of the Democratic Party is wrong. I will say this. How does a straight white male straight white male Democrat run for president? Very carefully. That's true. Why? Because the media will tear you apart. And the fringe activists on Twitter will scream as loud as possible to destroy you and lie about you and misrepresent you. And that's your challenge. Not the Democratic Party, the fringe lunatics who are trying to take it over. And they're gaining ground. They are. Anyway, I didn't read the article, but we'll wrap up there. I got one more video coming up, and I will see you in a few minutes.